Hey guys, it's Roby from .Not Feather again, and today we're going to do a comparison of the Glock Model 43 against the Smith & Wesson M&P Shield. So if you've asked yourself in 2016, what kind of carry gun do you want to carry when you go out into the world, whether it's for personal protection or for the protection of your loved ones, you've probably heard a lot about the Smith & Wesson M&P Shield and the Glock 43. The Smith & Wesson M&P Shield was introduced about a year ago, where the Glock 43 has just kind of come into its fruition here in the last 8 months or so. So they're two very popular models, both single stacks with 9mm ammunition capabilities, and that's what they're designed to fire. So very similar, but you may ask yourself, is there really a difference in price point between the two? And if there is, should you pay more? So we'll go ahead and show you our two test mules here that we'll use for the video. One's going to be a Glock Model 43, and the other one will be a Smith & Wesson M&P 9. So they're both 9mm parabellum. As you can see, this is our brand new Smith & Wesson M&P Shield, chambered in 9mm. And what we've got here is the factory base plate that comes on the magazine. It will also come with a secondary magazine that has an extension and allows one more mag capacity, so one more bullet. So you'll get 8 in here plus 1 in the chamber, so that'll give you a total of 9. So you can see kind of how the gun is. You can see how the gun is shaped. Very aesthetically pleasing. Has a nice little grip zone here, which is a Springfield Armory term, but I'm just using it loosely here. And they've got a soft textured pebble feel to it. Good 3-dot sights. If you can get that in focus here. Okay. An overall compact package. So we'll go ahead and just show this up for a little bit. And let's go ahead and look at our Glock 43. Now, did a couple additions to this one, so it's not 100% factory like you would receive new in the box. We put a blacklist threaded barrel in here, but aside from that, we took off all the other stuff so we can kind of give you an apples to apples comparison. So here it is. You can note that it shares the same Glock grip line that feature with the rear hump here. This is the extended magazine here with the base plate pinky extension. So if you were to look at the factory mag that comes with it with the standard base plate, we'll go ahead and put it in the gun for your visual. Okay, so let's go ahead and take a look at the grip. We'll start with this 43 because we do have it in our hand right now. This is the not extended, no finger or pinky attachment base plate. So you can see I've got 2 fingers comfortably on the grip, and the third one just kind of floats underneath. Here's our shooting position. Okay, let's go ahead and take a look at this with the M&P 9. And for the purpose of this, we're going to work with the 0 plus or 0 edition base plates, just because that'll give you an idea of what your grip and what your finger position will be on the handle itself. So here it is with the no edition base plate. I'm going to go ahead and wrap my fingers around. You can see I've got 2 positively on there, and the third one is probably about 50%. So probably a 50% chance that it'll slip off or come down. Okay. Now what you do notice is that the M&P Shield does have a longer grip. It's going to give you more purchase in your hand. It is going to extend further to the base of your palm, as you can see how far it goes on mine. Whereas the Glock is actually going to stop at this point and then taper in. So we'll put these two next to each other so you guys can get a side-by-side comparison. Let's match them up. These are the widths, and we've got the M&P Shield on top and the Glock 43 on bottom. So you can see the width this slides. You can see that they're almost identical in length. There's barely any difference between the two. The Glock is slightly longer, but the only reason for that is due to the tapering of the slides. And let's look at it from the back. let's look at grips. Now, a lot of people think that overall length in the slide is important as far as concealability. What really matters is your grip. So you'll see with a lot of 1911s, they've got some hybrid styles where they've used the commander-sized length slide, but they've shortened it to an officer-style grip, or vice versa with the government length slide, which is 5-inch, and use a commander grip because the grip is actually what's protruding from your belt line. So the larger your grip, the more issues you have with concealability, the more you give up in terms of being able to shove that closer to the belt line and kind of keep it inconspicuous. So that is a primary concern for us when we're looking at defensive handguns for concealed carry purposes. See if you guys can take a look at the grip angles. So overall, between the two, the grips are almost identical. You can kind of see where the M&P is behind the Glock 43, where it is just a tad longer. So if we take the magazines out of each one of these, that'll kind of give us a bare bones view of what they look like. Okay, here we go. And you can see that the M&P slightly protrudes a little bit further than the Glock grip, and a lot of that has to do with angle. Grips are almost the same as far as the contour, with the Glock having the traditional hump here at the bottom. So how that feeds into your hand when you're holding is you're going to get less finger placement here on the front, but you're going to get that rearward hump that sticks the gun right in the palm of your hand. So that's going to give you some of that controllability that you lack when you shorten the grip up. Smith & Wesson, on the other hand, is going to give you a longer tail here, so that's going to get closer to the bottom, so that gives you more of a sound purchase on the grip. And then aside from that, it is a very slim feeling grip. It doesn't feel thick, it feels very slim, very slender, so what you give up in terms of width, you make up in length here of the rear. Now when we add the factory base plates, or the additional base plates that come with each gun, the Glock having the pinky extension and the M&P Shield having the +1, we can kind of take a look and see what the differences in concealability become. I mentioned earlier that grip length sticking outside of your holster was one of the things that made concealability an issue. So imagine if this is your holster and this is your pant line. Now you've got this grip sticking out, and the longer you extend it, the further your shirts are having to kind of come over, and it breaks up the silhouette. So it becomes increasingly more difficult the larger your grip is to conceal without just people noticing in general. So we've added the +1 here. Let's see what it does to the grip angle. Okay, we've got all 2 fingers here and even the pinky, so it's got a perfect fit. This is almost looks like it was intended for me to carry, but it's got a good grip here, good purchase. I've got all 3 fingers securely and comfortably on there. And I don't feel like I'm missing anything. I don't feel like my fingers are gonna come off. I don't feel like I'm losing stability here or control. Feels good. But when you want to gain something in controllability, you give something up in comfort. So this is going to stick out a little bit more. So let's look at the Glock and see how its pinky extension fares against this one. Okay. Here's the two grip purchase here. And then you can see my pinky has a ledge right there. Right where this pinky extension goes, it's got that ledge, so it kind of keeps your finger planted in there. You can see the other side. Now, the grip is slightly compromised because of the rear hump that we mentioned earlier. Notice how the hump actually ends here, whereas the Smith & Wesson went down to here. So although I've got all the same finger control there, I'm missing a little bit here. But do I really care about that? In a concealed environment, no, not when I'm carrying, because I like the fact that they taper this grip angle here. It's going to make it sit lower on the belt line. It's going to make it less conspicuous. So let's take another look from this holding position. Okay, let's look at the weight. I mean, ideally, either of these guns loaded are going to be about the same. The Smith & Wesson with this additional +1 base plate is going to add a couple grams for an extra bullet. So you've got, let's see, you've got 8 + 1 capability with the extended base plate here. And you're going to have 6+1 with the Glock. So the Glock pinky extension doesn't actually add a round. All it does is simply give you a little place for you to stick the smallest digit of your hand. So between the two, I mean, ideally, if I'm holding them side by side like this, you can kind of tell, I'm trying to keep my hands as level as possible, but you can kind of tell what they look like in stature. Very similar. I think Glock definitely knew what they were doing when they were playing catch up to the design of the M&P Shield and what it had been doing for the concealability market for the CCW holders. Trigger pull is another important consideration. Each one has a pretty budding aftermarket where you can get carry triggers and all sorts of goodies, you know, that'll aid you in shooting and probably better comfort in handling both guns. From the factory, I do kind of tend to favor the Glock, even though it is a 5.5 pound trigger pull. I just feel like the take up goes from nothing to a brick wall, and then once you actually engage the trigger, it's very, very stiff and almost like a carrot break. It's a very positive feeling. You can definitely feel it once you have actually pulled the trigger. Whereas the M&P Shield, it's a different kind of take up. You almost feel like there's nothing there when you take up the slack on the trigger, and once you pull, it's just a little more bouncy. It has a little bounce to it there at the end. So as a reset. Okay, so positive reset, just like the Glock. Doesn't really make you feel like you're losing anything there. Okay, and so the Glock actually has a little longer take up for the reset. So if you've shot the chambered bullet and you ride the actual trigger, let the slide rechamber, and you let up on the trigger, the reset distance is a little longer on the Glock. Not by much, but for some shooters that's important to know. But I think the vast majority of people that are getting into these 9mm slimline single stack carry guns are not really going to monkey around with them too much. So that may be important depending on your shooting style and what you're used to. If you're used to a very carrot-like break, or you like a little bit of sponginess to it, that's going to differ between the two of these. But aside from that, I mean, they're identical. They really are. I mean, what they offer you in size and stature, I mean, you really can't beat this for a 9mm. And there's a host of accessories that you can purchase with these. Both of these have a pretty good aftermarket, like we talked about. So aftermarket barrels, aftermarket sights, third-party triggers. Apex makes a great one for the Smith & Wesson line, and there's probably about a dozen or so different vendors for the Glock line. Now, parts compatibility, I don't think anything in the M&P or the Glock 43 is going to be compatible with their bigger brother lines. You know, it's all going to be basically a shrunk down platform. So don't purchase Glock 17 mags and think they're going to fit in this tiny little single stack Glock. You're going to be sorely disappointed, or you'll just have extra Glock 17 mags, which is never a problem. So it's going to be a tough comparison if you're out there shopping. Which one do you want? I mean, price point wise, there's probably anywhere from $40 to $70 difference depending on where you're buying. You can probably get the Smith & Wesson M&P for right around out the door $400, whereas the Glock 43 is probably going to be closer to $500 out the door. So it's going to be a personal decision based on comfort, feel, some of the intangibles that a lot of people, you know, feel like are important to them, brand loyalty. Those are the things that are going to make these make your decision easier or more difficult on which way you want to go. But either way, performance is about the same. Does it really matter if you get an extra round for the increased base pad? I don't think so. I don't think that one extra round after 7 is going to make or break the deal in your CCW approach. A lot of people are going to throw the extra mag in their pocket as well anyway, so. Well, there you have it, folks. There's a quick introduction to the Glock 43 versus the Smith & Wesson M&P 9 Shield. We'll look forward to probably going and taking these out to the range and kind of giving you a better range estimation on how they did. Good range reports, always good for videos and lets the viewers know what kind of accuracy is acceptable and what kind of accuracy to expect out of themselves. So that being said, we thank you for watching this video. Give us a shout if you have any questions, leave a comment, and subscribe to the channel. Thank you.
This is good.